Hi, I am Brianna Hawkins. I am with Fractal Strategies. We are the strategy and operations arm of the Wild Seed. The Wild Seed is a initiative that it was created to support women of color entrepreneurs throughout Los Angeles County to advance social impact by investing in business owners who are anchors in local communities. Women of color businesses tend to hire locally. They are invested in the community and help to shield communities from the impacts of gentrification and displacement. And in a time like this, where our city, our communities are impacted by tragedy and emergencies such as the wildfire, it's more important than ever to ensure that small businesses are fortified as essential anchors to support in our rebuilding and recovery. I'm thrilled to have you all here today for our first grant clinic targeted at navigating public funds to support small businesses. Before we get started, I do want to make sure that we take a moment to pause. Let's take a beat to acknowledge the weight of what's happening around us. There's a lot moving right now within our communities, within our personal lives, and the world at large. And many are experiencing the impact of the wildfires, some directly, others through loved ones, or all of us through the air that we breathe. So for those affected, we see you, we stand with you, and we are holding space for healing. Many of us are also experiencing transitions and fear and anxiety, whether it's in work, relationships, personal growth, or with the new political administration. And so as we step into today's work, we just ask that we all hold space for the struggles and for the solutions, that we move with care and purpose and an openness to support one another. We're here together, and that is something powerful. So with that, we just want to, welcome you to this conversation, really, that we're going to have today. We know that the wildfires have left many businesses and entrepreneurs facing uncertainty, and our goal is to equip you with the knowledge and resources to navigate relief opportunities, whether you've been impacted directly, whether your brick and mortar or business was touched by the fires, indirectly, whether you're near an area where foot traffic has decreased, or just indirectly because you are in our city. We are all impacted by the fact that the quality of air is not great and that people are staying indoors more, and your revenue might have changed because the foot traffic has been impacted by all of the things that are going on around us. So or you want to be a part of the solution to support those who have been affected by the wildfires. The Wild Seed, again, is a grant program and technical assistance initiative aimed at strengthening the capacity of women-owned businesses and other underserved small business owners. We've developed a two-part clinic series to address the immediate and long-term needs of these businesses, especially those affected by the fires. So our series will provide guidance on securing public and private relief funds, as well as preparing for government contracting opportunities that are tied to recovery from the disaster. So even if you haven't been directly impacted and you want to be a part of the solution, the conversations we're having here today and next month will be relevant for you as well. So again, I'm Brianna Hawkins with the Fractal Strategies team, but I would love to open it up for the rest of the team who helped put this on to be able to introduce themselves. I'll kick it over to my colleague, Debbie.
Everyone, Debbie Sheen, co-founder and principal at Fractal Strategies. I'm mostly over here on the ops and admin end of things, so you'll see me popping in, but it's great to have all of you here and to be in community with you all during this very emotional week in the headlines. So thanks for joining. Should we have the Blacklight team introduce themselves?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Brittany Daykoff. I am the brand and marketing arm for the Wild Seed. Thank you all for joining.
Right, and I'm Morgan. I'm the founder and executive writer of Morganite Writing Company, and I am the grants and storytelling arm of the Wild Seed. And so I am very happy to be kind of leading our grants clinic today. Morganite Writing Company, we support social enterprises and nonprofits in building stronger connections to community and funding through different communications strategies. And so this is something that I'm really glad that we're able to share with you as we navigate our current situation. So welcome and thank you for being here. All right, so for today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking, as Brianna mentioned, about relief opportunities. And so a lot of this are things that you've heard about with FEMA, with SBA. We'll make sure that you have the resources that you need to apply and access the range of public funding. We're also going to hear from our two incredible guest speakers from Bet Tzedek and Public Counsel, who's going to give you a lot more insight around the insurance aid and legal aid that you need to know about to protect your business and what's to come. We're also going to talk about being ready for the upcoming opportunities. As Brianna said, the city cannot clean itself up. It cannot rebuild itself. It's going to need support from businesses like yours. So how do you position yourself to accept those contracts? And then finally, we'll just give a little bit of an overview about what the Wild Seed is currently doing as part of our wildfire response initiative, which is a multi-pronged approach to how we can support our community in this time of crisis. All right. So first and foremost, let's talk about relief. That is what is the immediate need right now. We know that it's very important to address what's urgent while we're thinking about the future, because there's a lot of fear around how to navigate this current moment, but also fear and uncertainty about what's to come in the future. So we want to make sure that we're addressing both. Right now, we are talking a little bit about this. I've put together several resources to help you access and navigate the funding that's available. So the first thing that I want to provide you with is a resource list. We know that there are a lot of resources out there, and sometimes they can be difficult to navigate. So I've compiled a one-stop resource for securing disaster relief funding, business recovery support, and workforce development. The document that I'm going to be putting in the chat will list your key deadlines, your eligibility requirements, and your application process for each of the opportunities that we've listed, as well as links for you to access directly from the PDF so that it's all in one place. You don't have to look all over the place in order to get the resources that you need. This is going to include resources that you likely already know about FEMA and SBA, and just centralize that information, but it's also going to include some fairly new resources, because as the situation continues to evolve, new entities are going to provide new public assistance. And so if you need an updated list on what's available and what you can apply for and how, you'll be able to access that through the resource that I believe is already in the chat. Yes. Thank you so much, Debbie. All right. The next thing that we want to cover for you really quickly is, as you're navigating these resources, making sure that you're equipped with the correct tools to make sure that you are ready for the application and that you are able to submit your application well before the deadline. So we know that for SBA and for FEMA, the first deadline is coming up around the corner. It's March 10th, I want to say, or March 8th, one of those, but it's early March. And so you want to be able to have a checklist like this that gives you step-by-step instructions around what you're going to need in order to fill out the application, and what you're eligible for, what the funding is going to look like, and various information about how you track your application and how you utilize those funds once you get them. So we're hopeful that these step-by-step checklists will help to ease the application process for you, and that it will equip you with the information you need to ensure that you complete your submission by that first March 10th deadline. And so we'll put both of those checklists in the chat as well. Now that being said,
I will drop that in the chat in a little bit. Sorry about that. But yes, we'll move on.
All right. So Debbie's going to drop those checklists in the chat. One of the reasons why I decided to go with checklists is because while there are a lot of different ways that we can provide support, every business in the Wild Seed Collective and our partners are doing everything we can to support the relief and rebuilding of our city. And our approach is to lean into our strengths and make sure that we're maximizing the value of what we're putting out. And so with the checklist, there are a way of really enabling you to take this into your own hands. A lot of it is plug and play. That being said, this is a time where it's really important for you to consult with trained professionals that are leading the various systems of support that you want to engage. We've compiled a list of in-person centers for you to get that expert insight into different things. One thing I want you to keep in mind is that because FEMA, SBA, they have all of the applications incoming, it's a flood of applications. And so automation plays a role. The system plays a role. AI plays a role. And so when you have something like that, you want to make sure that you're able to sit down with a person who is very well versed with that system and can give you the insights you need to make sure that you are saying what you need to say, that you're not saying other things, that you are thinking creatively about how you respond to some of these questions to make sure that you can maximize your application. Going to in-person centers really helps you to avoid delays and mistakes in your application, and it also will help you to expand your recovery options and access to adjacent support programs that that institution might be offering. And so we'll also put in our comprehensive list of in-person centers that are available throughout Southern California for you to go in person, speak to somebody, and get the assistance and aid you need to put a really competitive application in the system. Okay. So one of the main reasons why you need to talk to somebody is because there are a lot of different pitfalls that might happen when you're putting in an application. We want to make sure that we are equipping you and that you are prepared as much as possible to, sorry, house phone.
So while Morgan is working through that,
Yeah, sorry, I got it. It's one of those things. But just to talk again about the application watchouts, these are the different things that we want you to keep in mind while you are preparing your application. There's a lot of things that you want to be aware of when it comes to submitting your application, such as, and this is something that has been coming up quite a bit, as we've seen people navigate the different FEMA and SBA and GoFundMe combinations, is making sure you understand, for example, that FEMA only covers uninsured expenses. And so I have already seen examples of people who have been denied their FEMA aid application because they've doubled their request for aid with something that's been insured. And so being able to be really knowledgeable about how you are applying has a role in how you're going to get the funds and what kind of funds that you're going to receive. And so this document, this resource document, is something that's going to help to pinpoint a lot of those top things to consider, including the uninsured expenses, but then also just how you're wording your GoFundMe and other focus points for you to keep in mind as you're navigating your application. So we'll drop that resource in the chat as well. And so now I'd love to introduce our speakers, who are an example of the immense value of consulting with experts. We are very happy to be joined by Nadia, the Director of Small Business Development at Bet Tzedek, and Ritu, the Directing Attorney for Community Development Projects at Public Counsel.
Hi everyone, thank you Morgan, and thank you everyone. We are very excited to be here. My name is Nadia, and I'm the Directing Attorney of the Small Business Program at Bet Tzedek. We've been working with the community to respond to the unfortunate wildfires that happened in January. We wanted to touch on some specific points that we have seen that a lot of the small business clients that are reaching out to us to get legal help have been mentioning. So I just put a couple of bullet points and I'm gonna go through them. We're happy to also answer questions at the end, and we will also put a link to our website. So if you want to talk with an attorney and have a deeper conversation on any of these specific areas, we are happy to talk with you. As I said, I will put a link to the application to receive assistance from Bet Tzedek and Public Counsel. So the first thing that we are telling all the businesses is to first of all identify their policy and check the insurance coverage that they have. Some people may not have access to the specific policy that they receive because of the fires, but you can always reach out to the insurance company to get a copy of the policy. The policy is going to be helpful to guide you through the steps and the information that you need to gather in order to file a complete insurance claim. Another topic that we are seeing is very important to determine whether you had a business. For example, we are seeing clients that had an office through the one they run their businesses, but that was part of their home. So probably the insurance claim that they are gonna file is related to their being homeowners and what happened with their house, and not directly for their insurance, not directly for their business, unless they had a specific addition on that policy that mentioned their business too. So that's why it's very important to first of all understand your coverage, what was protected, and the steps to be able to file your specific claim. The other thing that is important that we are seeing a lot of questions about are lease agreements. A lot of people had either their businesses burned down and they had a commercial lease, or maybe they didn't burn down, but there are some effects from like the ashes or like the fires or even the wind that happened before. So it's very different the way in which commercial leases work compared to residential leases. A lot of the time with residential leases, the landlord has more responsibilities to make sure that the space can be used by the people living there, the families living there. In commercial leases, those laws are very different. And what is very important is a commercial lease. So once again, if you don't have access to your commercial lease, the first step is that you get a copy of that lease, contact your landlord and ask them to send you the lease so you can see what are the obligations from the lease, like from your landlord and yourself. Another important topic related to commercial leases, and this is of course, I would say in the worst case scenario that actually the whole property burned down and you don't have access to it anymore, you are in the right to be able to ask for your security deposit. If the property was lost, I will say the main part of the agreement is lost, so the agreement is not valid anymore. So you can reach out to your landlord and ask them to give you back your security deposit. If you are having issues with this, you can contact us and we're happy to negotiate with your landlord to make sure that you get that security deposit back. That is another big area that we are seeing around commercial leases. And we want to remind the community that it is your right, if the property was lost, to get that security deposit back. The other area that we are seeing a lot of questions about is on commercial contracts and assessing the obligations that you have. We talked with a client recently that they basically said, I don't have access to any of the documents that I needed to be able to deliver some services that were due at the beginning of February, for example. In those situations, what will basically set the way and will be your guide to see how you contact other parties. If you had an agreement that you had to fulfill, is reviewing again your contracts. And that is something that we can also do through the program to understand, did you have an act of God clause, which basically establishes that the agreement cannot be fulfilled because something like this, an emergency happened, and then you don't have access to the materials or the information that you need to be able to fulfill your services. So in those situations, it's very important to assess what contracts were due in the next couple of months, so you can start talking with those other parties and tell them the situation and everything that is important for them to also be informed in case that that other person maybe had other obligations that they needed to fulfill with the services that you were going to provide. So it is important that you start reviewing these things. I know that it is a moment of crisis and that a lot of things are very important, but just starting to create a little list of all the contracts that you had and the obligations that you had, so you can assess and you start reaching out to the people that you had businesses with. So I think in general terms, those are the areas that I were seeing more questions about from the community. Of course, if you had employees, there are certain obligations that you need to fulfill to make sure that you comply as an employer, and we are also happy to answer questions regarding that. The last part that we wanted to talk about, and I know Morgan is already talking about the different grants that are available and some other products that are available for businesses in these times of need, are the SBA loans. The SBA loans, of course, are a great resource for the community to be able to access resources to be able to start their businesses again and be able to move forward on this moment of crisis. The thing that we as attorneys want to remind the community is that it is very different to get a loan than to get a grant. The main difference is the long standing obligations that you get with a loan. We are right now have some clients that receive SBA loans as a result of COVID. In COVID, there were also the disaster loans that the SBA gave and were very, very useful for the community. However, as time continues and maybe the sales that they had or the clients that they used to have before the pandemic never came back in the way that they thought. And right now they are trying to get their loans refinanced or like trying to sell their businesses, and having an SBA loan, it is a great resource, as I said, at this moment, but in the future can have I will say some complications on what you want to do with your business, because the SBA loans a lot of the times comes with different obligations, like you need to inform them if you want to sell your business, or they may put a lien on a specific property or the business itself. So it is important to understand when you are getting these loans, what are the long-term obligations of the loans, and also for you to assess. I know that during the first year, you don't have to repay these loans. They give you some time to be able to get on your feet, back on your feet. But in the future, you need to assess like, okay, if I start getting businesses as usual, this is the amount I'm gonna be able to pay per month. If that doesn't match the obligation that you are signing on that loan, it is very important that you reassess and really have a clear idea of what are the obligations and what is the money that you are actually going to be able to pay in the future. Because once you sign the loans, it is very difficult to get them refinanced or to get out of them, because at the end it's an obligation, it's a contract that you need to fulfill. And the government uses these loans to be able to help businesses that might be affected in other areas of the country or in other areas. So it is very important that at this time of crisis, we understand that you guys need resources to be able to get back on your feet, but that you are very clear and you really analyze the long-term obligations that these loans may have. And as I said, we are here to help you to go through that contract, to explain you the specific, like the small letters, as we say in contracts, of what is stated there. So you have all the information that you need to be able to make the decision on whether the SBA loan at this time is the best resource for you. It might be because, as I said, they have helped many, many businesses. It's just that you need to understand the long-term obligations of having these loans. So as attorneys, we are just telling clients, be sure that you are reading what you are signing. So in a year or two, you don't get surprised that you still owe this money and that you may not be in the situation that you expected to be able to pay it back. So those are the specific areas I wanted to talk about. I'm going to pass it to my colleague Ritu from Public Counsel. We both work very closely together with the community and are here to answer any questions. I will include on the chat the link to be able to get assistance from the organizations. And we are here with the community just to make sure that they understand what are their rights and the obligations in these times of crisis, and help them to get through a better place soon. I will pass it to Ritu, and I'm happy to answer any questions that people may have.
Thanks, Nadia. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here today. My name is Ritu Mahajan Estes. I'm the directing attorney of the Community Development Project at Public Counsel. Public Counsel is similar to Bet Tzedek. We both are legal nonprofit organizations in Los Angeles that have been serving the community for over 50 years. And, Nadia gave a really good overview of some of the legal issues that we see small businesses facing when it comes to responding to natural disasters such as wildfires. I just wanted to, encourage you all to, seek the free legal advice that our programs offer, not only for helping you navigate the wildfire situation, but also just in general. And you can visit our website, which we'll put in the chat. It's lalegalhelp.org. Which just, describes all the different services we provide through the program. It also has the online application. But essentially, just quickly, the ways in which we generally help small business owners, beyond what Nadia already mentioned, is we can help you, draft and review contracts that you're using in your small business. We can help you draft and review like a commercial lease that you're going to be signing, for a new space. We can help with landlord-tenant issues, negotiating like rent debt or other types of debt. We can help with employment law questions. Also, we have quite a few clients that, have developed like a really cool idea or product or curriculum that they need help applying for a trademark, for example, or a copyright. That's also things that we help with. So we do help with like a full range of legal issues, and all of our services are completely free. But we do have income eligibility requirements. So we do ask the people that apply to, basically let us know their household size and income, and based on that information, we assess if we can provide the services. We also offer a lot of trainings and webinars throughout the year. For example, next week, I'm going to be giving a training on commercial leasing and SB 1103, which is a new law that Bet Tzedek and Public Counsel and a bunch of other community-based organizations helped to pass in California that provides protections for small commercial tenants. I'll put the info about that webinar in the chat as well. So, just please feel free to utilize these services yourself and spread the word, because I definitely feel like there's certain communities that haven't heard about us or don't know, about the service. So we want to do all we can to do more outreach. We also, in terms of the businesses we serve all different types of businesses. But at Public Counsel, we have specifically served childcare providers for, more than 40 years. So that is a specific industry we serve. But, Nadia can also attest to this. The types of clients that come to us are, people that are running online businesses, people that have like mini marts, barber shops, nail salons, auto mechanics. It's just the full range, street vendors. So we can help any and all types of businesses. In terms of financial aid, so I know you've heard a lot about different loans. I'm not sure how much will be spoken of about grants, but I just want to highlight that LA County, the Department of Economic Opportunity, will be rolling out a grant program for small businesses impacted by the wildfires. Online, it says that it'll become live in February. So hopefully we'll hear, more next week and there'll be a way to apply, but there's information online about who's eligible and all that stuff. So I encourage you to check that out. I've also heard that the LA Chamber has a grant program for small businesses. And then there's a few other ones that I know of at this time. I've also seen that there's a lot of foundations accepting donations, which they intend at some point to have to grant out to business owners. I think they're just getting their ducks in a row about how they're gonna do that process. So again, as soon as we hear more, I will definitely share with you all. And then just last thing, I wanted to highlight some of the policy work that Public Counsel and Bet Tzedek and other groups are trying to advance on the LA City and LA County level. Basically, in response to the wildfires, we've been hearing from businesses all across the county, that they've been impacted. Even if their physical, business is still standing, there's less revenue because there's less people, going out and shopping or buying things, or just people haven't been utilizing small businesses the way that we were, before the fires. And so we know that it's had like a ripple effect on a lot of different industries. And so what we're trying to see is if the city and county are open to implementing certain policy protections to protect, small business owners and also workers that have been impacted by the fires. And to give you some examples, what we're trying to see is if these entities are willing to explore, for example, a commercial eviction moratorium. So like putting a pause on evicting, allowing for landlords to evict commercial tenants right now. Because we expect that more tenants will not be able to pay their rent next month because they didn't make enough income in January. So that's one thing we're trying to explore. The other thing is, some sort of rent freeze, because for commercial tenants, their rent can be increased like however much the landlord wants if you're a month-to-month tenant. We're also trying to think about like anti-harassment protections for small business owners. And then for workers, the city is looking into like a guaranteed basic income program for workers that have lost income. So again, all of these things are in the works. We don't have anything that's actually passed yet, but I will keep you all updated. Yeah, and I think that's it for me. Thanks so much for being here, and I will pass it back. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much to both of you. So we're going to open the floor for a bit for questions for Nadia or Ritu. If you do have questions, you can either put your questions in the chat and we will ask them for you, or you can come off of mute and ask your questions directly. So just hold a little bit of space for asking any questions.
Hi, do you know, like, if we're like, I'm less of a small business, but we're more of a nonprofit and we're a larger one. Now, we're not necessarily affected by the wildfires in terms of like, we're not in the area, but we're trying to provide aid. Like in terms of like, we're a shelter, so we have like, we have space to possibly house people, but we need to do more like construction, but we're not in the immediate area. Do you know if any of this might apply to us?
Um, you mean in terms of the legal help or the grant stuff?
More like on the grants and possibly like legal help because I mean, obviously we're gonna be getting like for example, like we're having an event in Pasadena coming up this like Friday. Like if there's someone from Bet Tzedek who wanted to come, table at our event, though it's last minute, that would be awesome. But we anticipate, a lot of this, a lot of these communities are going to be displaced and coming into, a lot of like areas where people are experiencing homelessness, like Skid Row and like, all of that. And so we want to be prepared, but I don't know how much of, and we're not a small business in some ways, but we want to support and be a provider of such services. And so like, under trying to understand how that might be able to help.
Yeah, I mean, so Public Counsel, which is the org that I'm with, we do actually offer free legal aid to nonprofits as well that are serving low-income communities. So we have like the same, I can link the website here, but there's an online application. We help with the range of legal services. So definitely open to talking with you, at another time more in detail about what like you guys need help with. And then if I see any grants that are open to nonprofits, I can also share them. It may be that the one that the Department of Economic Opportunity of LA County is going to be putting live in February is also open to nonprofits. I'm not sure. And actually, you may have heard this, but the Center for Nonprofit Management actually did a study on how the wildfires have impacted the nonprofit sector. It's really crazy how quickly they put it together, but it's really eye-opening. So I encourage you to read that as well. But I will also put in the chat how you can access our legal services for nonprofits.
Yeah, that would be so awesome because we actually have a pro bono legal clinic. I mean, honestly, we're concerned about the survival of that legal clinic just because a
Mhm.
lot of funding stuff and we want to continue it, but we definitely we have our legal clinic director. So
Okay.
we definitely want to do that. And is there a way that these resources could be compiled in an email or something just because we may lose the chat?
Yeah, yeah. I think we'll send an email after this. And oh, sorry, what's the name of your nonprofit?
I work at the Los Angeles Mission in Skid Row.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. And I don't know, maybe you have your organization has been a client of Public Counsel in the past. Because we've been around since the 70s. But yeah, we can definitely talk and yeah, we'll send one email with everything.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And so what is your role at publiccounsel.org?
Yeah, so I'm the directing attorney of one of the 8 different projects that Public Council offers. So my project is community development. So we do work that uplifts and empowers the community. So we provide free legal services to nonprofits, to small businesses, and then we also do housing justice policy and economic justice policy and impact litigation. So that's all housed in my project.
Oh yeah, that's all of it. That's all of the above. And thank you so much.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks.
Also, just to add, some of the resources that I know Morgan put available, they do mention that are open for everyone in LA because, of course, the impact of the wildfires are not only in the immediate communities, like they impacting the city in general. So it might be
Right,
good to look through those resources because, as I said, I know that some of them are available
right.
for
And
everyone.
this is
It doesn't
and
matter
this is
that you
the
are not
one
close to the community. Yeah.
and this is the one on the Google Doc right here, right?
Yeah, so there's the public, or I'm sorry, yeah, the public resources slide is a Google link in there. You'll see it and you can
Yeah.
open it up that way. But yes, we'll also follow up with an email to all attendees with all of my resources that I've combined, but then also all the resources that our speakers have provided for us as well.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
Are there any other questions?
Just how we stay connected. I mean, like, we work with a lot of people who are unhoused and we're an economic development agency. At our core, I think that it would just be great to stay connected with everyone. I mean, I'm sure you guys will follow up in an email. But thank you so much. I mean, this is so valuable and helpful.
Yeah, if I'm going to leave space for some more questions for our speaker, and then we do have a, slight pivot to the last part of our session for today, which speaks to a lot of what Monique was talking about in terms of how do we now transition from relief to providing services. But I'll leave a little bit more space if there's any other questions for our speakers. All right. So thank you again to our speakers and the incredible and important insights for businesses navigating this current moment. Thank you so much for being here. We will be sure to follow up with everybody on this call with all the resources offered by both Bet Tzedek and Public Counsel. Okay, so now we will transition into the last half of our presentation, which is going to focus on making sure you're positioned for the opportunities that are sure to come as the city finalizes plans to rebuild. So as Ritu was saying, as Monique mentioned, there's going to be a rebuilding effort. We don't know how long it's going to take. We know it's not going to be short term. We know that there's a lot of work that needs to happen. And we know that the city's going to need help. And so why not you? Why not you be the person that is in position to support your community rebuild? So we want to make sure that you are positioned to do that. First and foremost, myself as a grant specialist, I just want to make sure that your business is registered in sam.gov first and foremost. You have to register in sam.gov and receive your unique entity identifier or UEI code in order to access a lot of different types of federal funding. And that includes federal funding that is passed through and distributed by state agencies. You want to make sure that your business is registered. And so one of the things that we've also compiled is a resource sheet, which we'll put in the link in a second, that provides step-by-step instructions on how to make sure that you and your business are registered in sam.gov.
And Morgan, if I can just interject and reiterate to Monique's point, like this is relevant for businesses and organizations, whether you've been directly impacted by the fires or not. If you want to be a part of the recovery and the rebuild, there's going to be contracting and grant opportunities to support that as well. And so registering as an organization or entity via sam.gov would be an important step if you're on the receiving end of support as someone who's been directly impacted, or you're on the giving end of support as someone who's providing relief.
Right, exactly. That leads into the other part of being positioned is as we're talking about rebuilding, again, the city cannot rebuild itself on its own. And so you can anticipate that the city's going to need help. There will be a need for construction, for infrastructure, repairs, for debris removal, for temporary housing and shelter solutions, like you were talking about, Monique, for public health and safety services, technology, communication. There's a lot of different things that is very common needs after disaster that the city will be looking for contractors to support. And again, let's let those things be covered by your business. And so how do you make sure that you are positioned to bid, that you are looking and staying vigilant on those procurement sites, and that you are doing what you need to do to be competitive in that process and getting that government contract. And so the document that we'll put in there is called Position Yourself for Grants and Contracts. That's going to cover both how you go into sam.gov and create your registration, then also how you set yourself up for the different things that you'll need on these procurement sites, as well as a list of the procurement sites that you want to be watching for, and the different types of contracts and services that may be coming up very soon or may already be on those sites, frankly. And so we'll put that document in the chat as well. Along those same lines, when you are going for bids for government contracts, it is a very great idea to have a certification to show. I know that there's been a lot of confusion around how priority treatment is being dealt with on the federal level and things like that, but it is always a good idea to go ahead and get your certifications and help your business stand out in that way. So there's a lot of different certifications you can get for this group in particular. There's the small business enterprise certification, the minority business enterprise certification, women-owned businesses, and disadvantaged business enterprise, as well as others like the veteran-owned business enterprise, so on and so forth. Why these are important to have is because certifications can really enhance your business opportunities and give you a competitive advantage in the bidding process, as well as expanding your market reach. So the document that we're going to provide for you is going to outline the different certifications that are available, as well as a step-by-step detail around how to apply, what you need to be eligible, and what you need in order to make sure that you have everything in hand to successfully submit your application. Okay. All right, so that is our session for today. We just want to re-emphasize that all of the resources and tools that we've shared today are designed to provide immediate relief for businesses impacted by disasters, while also positioning you and your business for future funding and work opportunities. I'm going to pass it over to Brianna, who's going to close out with talking a lot about what we are as a collective doing in response to the wildfires and how you can get involved with what we're doing as we move forward.
Yeah, thank you so much, Morgan. And thank you again, Nadia and Ritu, for that information. I know I learned a lot about, number one, how to support local businesses that have been impacted by the fires, and also opportunities for all of us as Angelinos to be supported as well, and things that we collectively are eligible for. The Wild Seed is working to leverage our own resources to support our community, because we've all, again, collectively been impacted in some way. We have a Heart and Home event that Blacklight will be hosting in February. And this is an opportunity to just come together, to network, to heal, to connect with each other on a human level, a space to be able to provide, some respite for those, again, who have been directly impacted, and to just continue to invest in our community. There'll be resources there available, an opportunity to connect with some of the service providers, and on a more personal level, as we just try to support the beginning of the rebuild process. In addition, we will be launching our own Wild Seed emergency grants that range from $500 to $1,000 for businesses that have been impacted by the fires, and/or those who want to be a part of the solution to help with the rebuild. And as attendees of this clinic, you get priority consideration for the receipt of those grant funds, and we will also send the application out to you tomorrow. It'll be open for everyone else to be able to access on Monday, February the 3rd. The application period is only going to be open for a week. As of now, we're hoping to acquire additional funds so that we can make this resource a rolling resource for those who are in need. And we will distribute those funds before the end of the month. And we'll distribute those funds before the end of the month of February for those in need. And your receipt of the funds through the emergency grant program will not impact your eligibility to get additional funds from the Wild Seed program, as we'll be launching our regular grant cycle this summer in 2025. So you can still apply for those grants, which again are up to $20,000 for businesses that have a strong social impact and are doing work in the community. So I can pause right there and see if there are any additional questions in response to that. Well, we also have another grants clinic. I don't know, I can't remember, Morgan, if you mentioned this, but we'll be hosting another one in February that's focused specifically on how do you tell your story of impact as you try to access grant opportunities through private philanthropy. There are a whole host of funders out there who have disaster relief programs and just grants overall that people who have been directly or indirectly impacted by the fires can access. Places like Etsy, Comcast, others that have grants that folks can tap into. And those application processes are a little bit different from the public ones, which are a lot more transactional, like, are you eligible, are you not, and are really more oriented towards like, what's your compelling story. So this will be a grant writing workshop that can be helpful for everyone. And so we hope that you will join and be able to get some technical support on how to craft your story so that you can be more competitive for these grant opportunities as well.
And surprise, surprise, I will have a private grants resource list for you at that session as well.
Absolutely. So I'll pause to see if there are any questions, but if there are not, I know some folks have to hop, but if you can complete the survey that we put in the chat before you go, that would be amazing. It's always helpful for us to know what's helpful, what's not, how can we improve these offerings as we try to support our community. And so please complete this before you hop off. And again, we will be sending an email with all of the links, all of the documents, all the information, the contacts from our conversation today so that you can have that for your reference going forward. So any final questions before we hop off?
Yeah, I mean, if anyone is willing to like share like a contact sheet of people who were here, maybe there's opportunities for us to, since we're all in the same boat of like having a heart to help and connect. I don't know if it's like a Google Sheet or opt-in or something to throw in the email, but I'd love to stay connected. I just saw like the note in here about co-working space, and I'm like, that's like amazing. But yeah.
I love that idea. Yeah, we can include in the wrap up, if folks want to be added to a contact list, a little link so that that can be shared out for everybody to access. I love that idea, Monique.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a recording? We are recording it. Morgan, are we sharing the recording?
Yeah, so we'll provide the recording on our YouTube channel, and when it's available, we'll make sure to send it out as well.
And then I also see in the chat, Kiasha is asking if we can reshare the co-working space info. And that's Brittany, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Brittany. Yeah, her space is beautiful. It's in downtown. It's also, Brittany is like a marketing and branding guru. So there's also an opportunity if you do join the co-working space to get some potential one-on-one support on either your website or other brand opportunities. So definitely encourage you to join. All right, y'all. Well, we love to end early. We love